Hello, and welcome to the Following Truth Bible Study. As always, I'm your host, LJ. In this specific video, we're going to be investigating, does the Bible say that Jesus was black? Now, what I won't be doing, now it's important that I point out some of the things that I won't be doing in this video. I won't be arguing that Jesus wasn't black. And I won't be arguing that Jesus was white. That's not what I'm going to do in this video. Specifically in this video, I'm going to be looking at, does the Bible say that Jesus was black? And that's the specific argument that I'm going to be looking at. Now, this is actually an argument that is taken from my book, The Holy Bible versus the Hebrew Israelites. And it's available on Amazon. You can buy it through Amazon on obviously as a paperback, but it's also available as well as in an ebook as well. So, as I say, this specific argument is going to be dealing just with, does the Bible say that Jesus was black? Now, this is an argument that is predominantly used by Hebrew Israelites to say that Jesus was black. So we're going to look at Revelation 1:14 and Revelation 1:15 specifically, and also we'll look at a verse in Daniel as well. But it's going to be basically revolve around Revelation 1:14 and 1:15. I'm not going to be dealing with other verses that are used by the Hebrew Israelites to say that the true Israelites or the true Jews are black. I'm only going to be, again, looking at it in this specific video regarding the color of Jesus and what the Bible says. So we will go and have a look at these other verses and other arguments that Hebrew Israelites make in future videos. But in this one, I'm just going to be looking at that one specific argument. So I just wanted to, at the beginning of this video, to make it explicitly clear what I am going to be arguing for. And the reason why I want to make it clear as to what I am arguing is because often when you get into these kind of discussions with Hebrew Israelites or with other people, it kind of goes off of topic, and sometimes it might, other verses are brought up, and I'm not going to be addressing those. And so it's not the case that I'm ignoring those other verses. That's not what I'm going to be dealing with. And so I need to make it clear that that isn't what I am going to be dealing with in this specific video. And we'll deal with those in other videos. So, as I've stated, I'm not going to be arguing for a white Jesus. So, this image we know is not Jesus. This isn't Jesus, although it is a depiction of, in modern day, today, this is an image that is often depicted as what Jesus looked like. I'm not going to be arguing that this is Jesus. This isn't Jesus either. The long-haired, brown, blue-eyed. This one is obviously not so much blue-eyed, but maybe in this one, the brown hair, blue eyes, white-skinned Jesus that is very much modern depiction of what Jesus is, or what is accepted today. Now, I'm also not going to be arguing regarding Caesar Borgia as well. So we're going to look at that in a future video. But this one specifically, we're just dealing with Jesus. So I don't believe that this is Jesus. This is not Jesus. And this is an actor. This is Robert Powell. Now, Robert Powell played Jesus in a 1970s. It was a 6-part. It was like a film, but it was 6 parts. It was like 6 hours per. It was a series, but made out, and it's very much a film. And it was about 6 hours long. It was a very good film, or series, whatever you want to call it. But this was Robert Powell who played Jesus in that production. This isn't Jesus. Now, there is a funny meme that goes around, and I've seen it in numerous places, and it's meant to be Robert Powell saying, but it's clearly not Robert Powell who's stating this. But it says, "I am not Jesus." Robert Powell, the Jesus character in the film Jesus of Nazareth, I never cease to say and repeat it to the world since 1977. I am not Jesus Christ. I am just an actor and a British comedian, hurt and tired of seeing my photos displayed in places of worship and others worship and pray to me. I just made a film for a living, so people should stop loving and praying to me, burn my pictures, and worship the only God in truth. Amen. Find the Christ your heart. Be conscious of yourself. Now, obviously, this isn't Robert Powell who's actually stated this. This is, the English is really poor. So we know this isn't Robert Powell that actually made this quotation, but it's funny anyway. It's like basically saying, stop worshipping the white image of Jesus. I see these on many different Hebrew Israelite pages, this kind of meme. So it's kind of like a dig at the white Jesus type thing. So we know that this isn't Jesus. Now, this is what many Hebrew Israelites would claim that Jesus looks like. The real Jesus, the one depicted in the Bible. This is what he looks like. A black man with white hair, basically. And so this is something that you will, again, often see in memes or used by the Hebrew Israelites on the streets. So they will have this image and say that this is the true image of Jesus. Now, as I say, I'm not arguing that Jesus was a white man, but I'm also going to argue that this is not how the Bible actually depicts Jesus as having looked. This is an image that you'll often see on the internet. This is kind of meant to be some kind of computer animated animation of how Jesus, the real Jesus, would have looked, based on findings that we've had and understandings of what historical Israelites would have looked like. So this is an image that sometimes I see posted about, saying that this is the real Jesus. So we've got, obviously, this is the kind of Jesus that is portrayed specifically through Catholic depictions of Jesus, this like this. And then we've got obviously the Israelite understanding, the Hebrew Israelite understanding of how Jesus looked. And then we've got kind of more scholarly ways of, or historically ways of depicting Jesus. And this is an image that often gets stated as maybe this is what Jesus actually looked like. Now, again, I'm not going to argue that Jesus looked like any of those. All I'm arguing, or it's not even really arguing against, it's just saying, well, the Bible doesn't depict that. Okay, so what the Hebrew Israelites will do, so they claim that obviously not only Jesus was black, but all of the other Israelites are black. So Adam would have, even though he wasn't an Israelite, he was black. But then Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all of these people were also black as well. So, and then obviously Jacob and through the Israelites, they were all black. So there are only a couple of passages in the Bible, in the whole of the Bible, that they use to depict Jesus. Now, again, we're specifically dealing with Jesus. There's lots of verses that Hebrew Israelites use in order to prove that Jesus was black, or the Israelites were black. We're not going to be dealing with that in this specific one. We're going to deal with the ones that are revolving around Jesus, and specifically the main one that is used is Revelation 1:14 through 15. And so it says, his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. So those are the two main verses that are used. And so what we need to do is we need to analyze those 2 verses, and we need to check and see what they actually say and what is said about them, and does what they say about them actually correspond to what the verses are saying. So first thing that we need to do is understand that this isn't, in Revelation 1:14 and 15, this is not Jesus that is being described, although it does resemble the image of Jesus. And there's a reason why. The simple fact is that when John turns to see who was talking to him in Revelation, he actually sees one like unto the Son of Man, not the Son of Man himself. We are told this in Revelation 1:12, which is just 2 verses before, 1:12 and 1:13. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me. And I turned, I saw 7 candlesticks, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. John actually saw an angel. This was the angel that Jesus had sent to John. And this is made very, very clear at the beginning of the book of Revelation. So actually, Revelation 1:1, I don't. So I might have to add that to my string. Yeah. So Revelation 1:1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Okay, so what we actually have here is John is being visited by an angel who is in representation of Jesus Christ. Okay, so when John actually turns to see who is talking to him, what he actually sees is the angel that is in representation of Jesus, who Jesus sent in representation of himself. Now, God gave that revelation of Jesus to Jesus. Jesus gave it to his angel, and the angel went and gave it to John. So when John is spoken to, and he turns to see the angel, all right, the angel looked like the Son of Man. So the description of what the angel looked like is a representation of what the Son of Man looked like, but this isn't actually physically Jesus. So that's what we need to just understand. What is more important to notice is that this depiction of Jesus in Revelation, okay, is referencing a resurrected and glorified Christ after he has ascended to heaven. This is Jesus in a glorified body. There's no reference here whatsoever to the body of Jesus that walked the earth as a Jewish man before his death, burial, and resurrection. The book of Revelation comes after Jesus has already died, being buried and resurrected, and then ascended to heaven. This is not a description of a man that walked the earth. So to try and link the reference in Revelation to a physical man, Jesus, is a complete and utter distortion of Scripture. And I think is either due to a lack of study or a purposeful deception. But let's continue and analyze the description itself. His head and his hairs were white like wool. So there we go in Revelation. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as flame of fire. Now this verse states that his hair was white like wool, not that his hair was like wool. The comparison is regarding the color, not the texture. To further illustrate the whiteness rather than the texture, we then have a second comparison with snow. And I'm sure that nobody's going to say that the texture of snow is what is being referenced here. Both refer to the same thing. If his hair is being referred to as the texture of wool, then it's also being referenced as being the texture of snow. This is not what is being described here. Both are in reference to the color, not what the texture of that hair looked like. Now, this understanding regarding color is also supported in the Bible in the book of Isaiah, where Isaiah says that the sins of the people, although as red as crimson, shall be as white as snow, as wool. And we find that in Isaiah 1:18. And let me just check a second, because I should have what I need to do is remove my images again, and I need to update them. And hopefully this will now... Oh, no. So... Sorry about this. The slides haven't updated when I added some new ones to it. And they didn't update. But I shall just quickly update those. Right, okay. So, where are we now? We're looking for Revelation 1:18. Sorry, Isaiah 1:18. There we go. So this should now... Okay, sorry. Right, okay, there we go. Didn't update. So come now, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. Okay, so this reference here, sometimes it is argued that the wool here is described as being shaggy. Wool can be described as shaggy, but that isn't what is referenced again in this verse. Wool has a texture, but it also has a color, and it is the color of wool that is being referenced here, not the texture. And that is what is being compared in this verse. You'll see all the way through the color is what is being referenced. There obviously is no comparison here between the texture of the sins of the people. White as snow and like wool are linked together in reference to color. They were red like crimson, but they shall be white like wool. There's a comparison here. Red like crimson, okay, but they shall be white like wool. The wool is used as a reference to white, just as crimson is in reference to the color. All right. The Hebrew word translated as crimson is tola. And it actually refers to this worm, the tola worm. And it is a worm. Tola literally means worm. That's what it is. It's this particular worm. This was used to make crimson red dye for clothes and material. They would crush these worms. They look like little grubs or beetles, but they're actually worms. And what would happen is these would be crushed up and they would make dye that would be crimson dye. So while the sins of the people had made them like as if they had been dyed crimson red, they were going to be purified and made clean again. They were going to be made white again, clean. It isn't a reference to a color of skin. So we're not saying that these were white people, that they were going to be made white again. It's the sins of the people that are in reference. Okay, come now, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. What shall be as white as snow? The sins of the people. Though they be red like crimson, what is red? The sins of the people. They shall be as wool. They shall be cleaned again. They shall be white. All right, that's what is in reference here. It's got nothing to do with your sins are now going to be woolly. That's not what is in reference. Now, it must also be noted that Revelation 1:14 doesn't just make reference to his hair, but his head also. Not only is his hair white, but also his head is white. I have yet to see a black man with a white head, unless, of course, the verse is trying to say that the glorified Christ suffered from vitiligo, which I rather think it's not. Unlike what is often used as a counterclaim, the hair on his head were white, or the hairs on his head were white. This is simply adding to the text and forcing into the verse an interpretation which is not found in the text itself. The text is very clear that both his head and his hairs were white. The Greek word, the Greek of the verse includes the word kai. Okay, if we have a look at the Greek there, it has the word kai, as I've pointed to. Kai means and. It is a conjunction word. A conjunction word literally means that it connects together sentences, clauses, phrases, or words. So, we have, okay, in the Revelation 1:14, if I need to scroll, his head and kai, conjunction, connecting, these connect together. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Head and hairs are connected. There is no separating in the Greek between head and hairs. This is not hairs on the head. This is head and hairs, both white. But we're not talking about colors here, all right, or physics. We're not trying to say that this glorified Jesus was a white man. That's not what is being stated at all. The Greek word translated as white is leokos, which means white, a brilliant whiteness, light, or even bright. Let's so let me see if I can if I share my screen again, and we'll go to Revelation 1:14. So we'll go into the Greek. As always, I like to back everything up with scripture, with the Greek, and actually show everything. So here we have again, and the head of him and the hairs connecting are white. And this is 3022, bright white, bright, brilliant. Okay, this is a brilliant whiteness. This isn't referencing the white Jesus that was walking the earth. This is a description of the glorified Jesus, and this will become even more abundant as we go through. So this is it's going to become apparent even more when we come to the countenance of Jesus, what is referred to. But why is it only the first part of that verse that is used as evidence for? Let's go back into it. So let me get back out, and let's go to the parallel of that verse. And so there you go. So I shall bring it up, and there's some different versions of it. But why is it that only the the first part of that verse is being used. If the first part of the verse is used to prove the way that Jesus physically looked, then why wouldn't the second part also be used? His eyes were as a flame of fire. How many black men have eyes as a flame of fire? I'm yet to meet any man, regardless of color, that possesses this physical attribution. Although it could be argued, and it sometimes is, that this could be referencing a red eye color possessed by those who are albino, and that this is a reference to an albino. There's nothing in the text that would give us any indication that Jesus was an albino or albino, however you say it, which would also negate the argument that the reference to hair was referring to texture and not color, because then obviously that would then be a color argument. But some even claimed that Jesus had red eyes through excessive wine consumption. But I'm not really sure that that warrants a dignified response, to be honest. There's nothing in the text to say that Jesus was an alcoholic, that he drank lots and lots and lots of wine. I'm not saying that Jesus didn't drink wine. There are clear instances where Jesus, it revolves around wine, but we're not talking about an excessive wine consumption. So this isn't, the red eyes are not to do with drinking too much alcohol. So again, I'll just go back and say, well, this is the glorified Jesus anyway. So this isn't really a reference to the man Jesus Christ. So even if it was that he was drinking, that he drank lots of wine, this is the glorified Jesus, and so it's not the same. This isn't the same body. Also, most advocates of a black Jesus do not use the second part of the verse in their argument, but some do. But it's rare to have that specific part of the argument used. It is normally the first part of Revelation 1:14 that is used. Now, then we have verse 15. And I think actually verse 15 is probably used certainly as much as Revelation 1:14, but I from what I've come across, I would actually probably say that it's probably slightly more than Revelation 1:14. It's often started with Revelation 1:14, but then Revelation 1:15 will certainly come in and be used as support as well. So Revelation 1:15, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So it is this verse that is used to demonstrate the dark skin color. So obviously Revelation 1:14 is to show the white hair, and that it was woolly, like an afro type hair, certainly not like the kind of hair that I would have. There are white people with curly hair, but certainly it's going to be a different kind of texture than the black afro type hair. But that is what Revelation 1:14 is used for. Revelation 1:15 is more to do with the skin color. And the claim being made that Jesus had feet the color of burnt brass that has been burned in a furnace. Therefore, Jesus had dark, burnt colored skin, which obviously is not white. And it's certainly not the color of the Jews which are in Israel today, or what consider themselves as as the Jews. They certainly do not have a dark, burnt colored skin. So again, we need to analyze what the verse actually says, and we need to analyze it against the claim. the verse starts by saying, and his feet like unto fine brass. Now, what will then be said is, well, if his feet are this color, what is the rest of his color? And I would tend to agree. If you're going to say that his feet are dark brown, black, then it's highly likely that the rest of the body is going to be the same color. So thank you very much, Lion Farm, for commenting. And I'll try and get to some of this if I can do. To be honest, I'm concentrating on the thing. So I do see that you're making comments. I'm not trying to ignore you. I will try and get to them afterwards and go through. But obviously just going through. But thank you, everyone that is here watching. And if you're watching on playback, again, thank you very much for doing so. I do appreciate everybody being here, regardless of whether you agree with me, disagree with me. It makes no difference. I appreciate everybody that comes in. As always, I'm always happy to have people that disagree and agree with me. And we can discuss the why you disagree, why you agree. I'm always happy about that. So again, thank you everybody that is here or is watching this on playback. And I do, like I say, do try to get to comments sometimes when I'm it's difficult when I'm doing the actual study itself, because I'm so concentrating on doing that. So I sometimes miss the comments, or if somebody posts quite a few, then I get lost on them, but I'll try and come back to them at the end. Now, so notice that the word fine before brass. So the color was like fine brass, not burnt brass. This is what we need to start with. Fine brass is polished brass. Polished brass is not brown. It is not black. It's actually a goldeny or a yellowy color. You only need to type in polished brass into Google, and you'll see that it is a more goldeny color. No, it's not yellow, but it's a goldeny color. Now, the Greek word translated as fine brass is actually chalcolbino, meaning fine metal or frankincense of a yellow color and has an implied meaning of brilliance or whiteness. And what I'll do is I'll actually bring that up in Revelation 1:15. Now, what is interesting about this word is that actually it's a completely made-up word by John. So it's chalcolibanon. I'm not even sure how to say the word. It's a made-up word that John made up. It's not a proper Greek word, and many people actually believe that it is made up of two words, and the last bit. So it's the Greek word chalkos, which is brass, and the Hebrew word laban, which means white. So some people actually believe that this is a combination of those two words that John has kind of created a word for this specific verse. Now, it is used only twice in the Bible, and the other time is in Revelation 2:18, which we will come to in a moment. But the verse then states, right, and this is the most important part of the verse, that so this is dark, that's more burnt brass. We'll get to that in a second. The verse then states, as if they burned in a furnace, right? And it is that is the most important part. So it's fine. So it's brass. We're ignoring the word fine or polished brass. When they argue this verse, they ignore that word fine. All right, and it just becomes brass burnt in a furnace. All right, as if they burnt in a furnace, and it's this word burned that they'll concentrate on, and that will become past tense. So the color is being linked to having been burned in a furnace. All right. But and so that's what you'll get. You'll get a dark. This isn't actually burnt brass, but this is a color of kind of burnt brass. It's a darker color, right? So it doesn't have that golden color. It doesn't have a yellowy color to it. It doesn't have a shine to it. It's more dull. It's more dark. It's certainly more brownish in color. And so that's what they'll kind of say. Well, okay, burnt brass is dark, and so the way that they understand it, it's not hard to see that you can, if you say that this is just brass and it has been burnt in a furnace, it's not hard to see that they're going to come up with a darker, more brown black color. And so this is why they use this. All right. And one of the pictures I've seen is like this: burnt brass. Boom! There you go. It's black. It's a lot darker color. It's a deeper brown, blacky color. So this is the color that clearly is not a white man, but is going to be a lot closer to a black man's skin color. That's the way that they say it. But the thing is that if they burned in a furnace is actually in present tense. Past tense would actually be as if they had been burned in a furnace. So the color is being linked to being burned, and I'll show that in a second, in a furnace, not having already been burned in a furnace. It's something that is happening here. All right, now if we go to Revelation 1:15 and we go to the Greek, and let me try to make that a little bit bigger. Okay, and we'll see that having been refined in a furnace, this is the word here. Papyromones, okay, which is the Greek word that is being used, having been refined, which is translating as having been burned. This here, if you have a look, is in the perfect participle, middle, or passive. Okay, it is in a present tense form, and it is the present tense of to burn. It is in a present tense form of to burn. Not the past tense, to be burned. All right. And it means to be made to glow or to be on fire. And it comes from the root word, which if I go back to that, so it comes from pyro, which means to burn. All right, I burn, am set on fire, am inflamed, glow with heat, am purified by fire. And that's what this is in representation of, the purification. He's purified. That's the whole image of what is being shown here. A purified Jesus. He's being purified by the fire. The Bible talks about purification through the fire. and that is what is in reference here. It's actually something that is is as if it is on fire, something that is happening, right? This is fire. This is brass that is burning in a fire, is as if it burned in a fire or in a furnace, right? We'll come to the word burned, the English word burned, in a second, but this is what is being referred to. It's bright white, bright yellow. It's a color that, you know, if you've ever seen metal workers, they have to wear special goggles on because it's so bright that that this is what what this Jesus is being described as. He's so bright, and that is what is in reference. He's like it's on fire, not that it's being burned already. All right. So let's have a look here in Revelation 1:15. So when we come to Revelation 1:15 and we look at some of the other translations of the Bible, you'll see the New International Translation. That's the one at the top there where the arrow is pointing. His feet were like bronze, glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. And then we have some other ones there, which is the New American Standard Bible. His feet were like burnished bronze when it has been heated to a glow in a furnace. All right. So other versions are translating it as if this was something that has been heated in the fire, and it's something that is now on fire, being heated up, not something that is now that was burnt in the fire and has cooled down and is now this darker color. All right, and then there's more there. Now the interesting one here is the Aramaic Bible, or the Aramaic translation of the Greek, and where the arrows again there, and it states, and his feet were in the form of the brass of Lebanon, which is heated in a furnace. So these translations understand that what is being referred to is something that is happening, right? It's on fire, not something that is past tense. The Greek is not past tense, and so these other versions are giving a present tense translation. We'll actually find out that the King James version, although it says burned, and I understand that can be confusing as if it's like it's something that is past tense. That's not the way. You have to understand that the King James Bible was translated in 1611. It was 1604 to 1611. The way that language was used then and the way that it is used now is not the same. Okay, but you can say something as if something burned in a fire, as a present tense. As I said, the way to make like specifically past tense, as if it had burned, or as if it had been burnt in a fire. We're dealing with a 1611 translation in the King James version, okay? And we'll come to the King James version usage of the word burned in just a moment. But even if, let's say that we take it as a past tense, when you take something out of the fire, okay, it is still glowing. This is something that has been burned, but it's still glowing. It's still on fire because it takes a while to cool down. So even if we had to take it as a past tense, which it's not, the Greek is clear that this is not a past tense. It can't be past tense, right? But even if we did take it as that, it doesn't necessitate that this has to be something that is now cooled down. This is something that is just being taken out of the fire, so it's no longer being burned. It's something that burned in the furnace, but is now still glowing. And that's, again, the image that is being referenced. So now we have the so actually let me just I'm before I move on to this, let me show this the burned in the King James Version. So let's go back to here, and I want to show that before I move on. I was going to come back to it, but actually I'm just going to show it because it's actually quite important. So in Exodus 3:2, we have Moses. We'll start with 3:1 for some context. Right. I will read in the King James Bible, but the other translations are there for you to see if you prefer those other versions. That's why I kind of use Bible Hub in order that you can still see other versions as well. Now, Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned. So we have that English word burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. This is present tense. The bush is on fire. All right. But the King James Version will use burned in a present tense. It's not using it in a past tense. So the word burned in the King James Version is not necessitating that something has to be a past tense. It's present tense. We know that this is present tense because we know that the bush was on fire while Abraham talked to God, or the angel that was in the bush. The bush was still on fire, but it wasn't consumed. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire. That exact same English word, but clearly in present tense. Now, there is actually one more verse that we can that I can go to, which will allow this to show again, and it's in Deuteronomy 4. I just want to show that the King James Version, which is a 1611 translation, translates or uses the English word burned in a present tense. It's not using it in a because a lot of King James, a lot of Hebrew Israelites will only use the King James Version, and so they will not accept these other modern versions have translated Revelation 1:15 in that way, in that present tense. A lot of them, I've tried to use the Greek, and they will ignore the Greek and say, "Look, I know what burned means." All right, you're trying to negate what the English states, so they will kind of ignore the Greek as well. So they use the King James Version. So the reason why I'm now showing in the King James Version modern the word burned is purely for that argumentation. Deuteronomy 4:11, and he came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. This is something, this is something that is on fire. It is burning, right? But it doesn't say, and the mountain was burning with fire, or it was on fire, or it uses burned with fire. So this is purely for the argumentation that we must understand the English word burned in the KJV as being present tense. Clearly, it doesn't refer to that, because there are places where that just is not the case. The KJV clearly uses burned with a present tense. And we must also take the second part of the verse and apply it as well. And his voice as the sound of many waters. Are we really going to say that this is any man, let alone a black man? Does any man have a voice as the sound of many waters? This is clearly symbolic. It's not literal. This is just a symbolic usage of, it's a metaphor. It's just there to be symbolic. It's not to be taken literally. Now, I want to go to Revelation 2:18. So, because in Revelation 2:18 we have both the eyes like fire and the feet like fine brass are stated again. So in Revelation 2:18, so if I add that to the stream, Revelation 2:18. Okay, so Revelation 2:18. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, these things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. Now, in this verse, we get, we're only being told are like fine brass. And again, the Greek uses the charcoal labino, which we've already seen. It means like a bright yellowy color. So that's what's in use, white yellowy color there. But we also get no mention of being burned in the verse here. We're just getting they're like fine brass. And fine brass, again, we can't ignore that word fine there. So we just can't ignore that before the word brass. But we get no burned here. So it's not being, here we're not getting the description of something that is burned in the fire. So the description of Jesus continues on in Revelation chapter 1, verse 16 as well. Although this is not quoted by those who use verses 14 and 15, but as 16 is a continuation of this description, we should have a look at it. So if we go back now to Revelation 1:16, so this, like I say, this is a continuation of the verse, or of the verses 14 and 15. This is still a description of Jesus, or the Son of Man, the one that John saw. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. So, again, here, this is the continuation of that description. It has two-edged sword coming out of his mouth. What black man has a mouth, a two-edged sword that comes out of his mouth? Clearly, this is a symbolic. This is not literal. All right, this is not a literal understanding. What we should be understanding there. There's no argument to say that how this could be referencing a black man or any man whatsoever. But then we have, and his countenance was the sun shineth in his strength. And that's, again, the point here. The whole description, we're talking about a glorified Jesus who shone like the sun. His countenance was bright like the sun, right? And that's where this picture, it's bright yellow, white color. So all of the description that we've had so far that has been used has been to show that this is Jesus purified. It's his cleanliness, it's his purity, his innocence, his blamelessness. All of it's all been, this is a glorified body. Hopefully that we'll all get one of these one day. The countenance of him shone like the sun shineth in his strength, which is where, with that fire burning, it's something that is glowing, bright. It's something that is it's like something is on fire, right? That's the imagery that we're trying, that is being described here. And we'll come back. This countenance of Jesus is really important. Now, the countenance is the Greek word opsis, and it means the features, the outward appearance of his face. His look was like the sun in its strength, meaning its brightness. That's the brightest of the sun. That's what Jesus looked like. Bright, not black, not white, bright. It's the brightness that is being referenced here. The outward appearance of Jesus was like the sun in its brightness. And we see that this kind of reference is used of Jesus. So when Jesus appeared to Saul, who then became Paul on the road to Damascus in Acts 9:1, right? This is the kind of imagery that we are being given. This again is a glorified Jesus. And in Acts 9:1, sorry, 1:9, or no, in 9:1, sorry, the opposite way round. In Acts 9:1, when Jesus meets Paul on the road to Damascus. So, and Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest. So what verse do I actually want to use here? I think it might be 3. So yeah, I'm just giving a bit of context, actually. That's what I wanted to do. So in verse 2, then we have, and desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any of his way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. So Paul now, or Saul as he was then, and as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. Okay. And now we're going to get the description of, in verse 4 and 5. And he fell to the earth, and he heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. All right, so we know that this is Jesus that he met on the road to Damascus. Now, I do apologize if obviously you already know that story, but I think it's important that we just, I like to be as thorough as I can. So for those that may not know the Bible or are new to it, and just for them to be able to follow along. So we now get some context that Paul is has met the risen, glorified Jesus. And then we are told by Paul in Acts 26 and verse 13 and following onwards. At midday, O king, I saw in the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of the sun, shining round about me and them which journeyed with me. So Paul, sees a vision that of a brightness, of a light from heaven that is brighter than the sun, above the brightness of the sun. That's what he's actually seeing here. And he relays then and says that this was obviously Jesus. Now, the word here, above the sun, above, is the Greek word hyper. We use this in English today, even a hypermarket or something is hyper is something above the normal, bigger than the normal, hyper. We use this quite often in English. It's a preposition and it means over, beyond, or something. So it's more than something else, above and above, beyond it. So it's brighter than the sun. It's even this light that he saw from heaven is above even the brightness of the sun. Now, Jesus in John 8:12, and I'll just read this. In John 8:12, Jesus says that he calls himself the light of the world. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Now, when we go back to Acts 9, we actually see that Paul, from this brightness, because it was so bright, he was actually blinded for 3 days because of it. 9:9. So, actually, if I go back and go to parallel. So in there, the King James, and he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink. He was blinded by this brightness of this light that shone, and that's again what we're in reference to here. That brightness. So in the New Jerusalem, there is also going to be no need for the sun, as the Lamb, Jesus, is the light thereof in Revelation 21:23. I know that again I am going to all of these, and for those that know the Bible, you may not need to see all of these, but I like to be as thorough as possible. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. The Lamb is the light. So that's what is being described here. In Hebrews 1:3, Jesus is described as being who, being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the power of by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the Majesty on high. He is the brightness of his glory. Hopefully, what you're seeing now is a slightly different understanding of what is being referred to in Revelation 1:14 and 1:15. It's not a reference to a color of a physical man, but it is a reference to a glorified brightness. Now, at the transfiguration of Jesus, Peter, James, and John saw a vision of Jesus in the glorified body. And that was Matthew 17:1. So they saw a vision of the transfiguration of Jesus. And again, we get, and after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain apart. And he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. All right. When you just take one verse on its own, you can make it kind of say whatever you want. When you break it down and you understand what it's saying and you use it with other scripture, it just doesn't say what they're trying to say that it says. Now, we are told that the face of Jesus shined like the sun. Now, the prophet Daniel saw the glorified Jesus during a vision that he had in Daniel 10:6. So let's go back and have a look at what Daniel saw. So Daniel 10:6. All right. So should I go back and do a bit of context for here? Maybe. Let me bring up the King James, just the King James version, and I'll just read 1 through 6. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing, and he understood of the vision. So Daniel is having a vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth. Neither did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. And in the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, to behold a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded up with fine gold and uphaz. His body was also like beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. So this is an image of the same Jesus, or the glorified Jesus. That's what he's seeing. But his face is the appearance of lightning. And again, that is what is being referred to. The polished brass, the Hebrew word there translated as polished, is kalal, and it literally means to be polished. So it's polished brass. It doesn't mean burnt brass. It is a polished brass. That's what the word means. And it is a golden yellow color, not a dark one. So let's go and actually show that in the Hebrew. And his burnished there. So kalal is a burnished or polished brass. Right? It's translated as polished brass in the KJV. That's what the KJV uses. And obviously his face is being stated as being like lightning, not dark black or dark brown. And that word obviously again is used in Ezekiel 1:7, as you can see that there's only 2 verses that Hebrew word is used, and it's Ezekiel 1:7 and obviously there in Daniel as well. So if we're going to be consistent again, and you're going to use one part of the description, then you must obviously use the others as well. Now the body is likened to beryl. The Hebrew word translated as beryl is Tarshish, which means a yellow or golden precious stone, most likely a yellow jasper. So the beryl there, a precious stone, perhaps yellow jasper. So again, this body is being described as being yellow. Hello, Eric. Yeah, I'm glad that you watched the video that I did on Gad the Seer. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'll try and get your views on that maybe a bit later. With your understanding of whether you agreed, whether you disagreed. Like I say, it makes no difference to me whether somebody agrees with me or disagrees. I obviously have my understanding, and that's what all I'm trying to do is trying to give you understanding and to give you kind of my understanding and evidence for how I've come to my conclusions and the arguments that other people use. If you're not convinced by my arguments, then that is fine. If people still believe that this means Revelation 1:14, 1:15 still means that it is referring to a black person, a black man, then that's fine. I'm just trying to give my understanding of why I don't think it is. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to convince everybody, and it doesn't mean that you have to understand it in the way that I have. All I'm trying to do is show that actually, if you just focus on just the verse itself, and you don't go any deeper than that, then sometimes you can get a misunderstanding of what something says. But when you break it down, there are other explanations, and there are other things that you need to look at, as I have been doing in this video. So like I say, the face in Daniel is being has the appearance of lightning, and his eyes of the lamps of fire. Again, so we get that fire of the eyes. This again supports the brightness of the person in Revelation 1:14 and 1:15. So the last verse that I am actually going to look at in this particular study is another passage of the Bible. So Revelation 1:14, 1:15 is the main verses that you'll get, that Hebrew Israelites will go to in order to prove their understanding of the color of Jesus. But then normally you will find that from there they will then use Daniel 7:9 as a support for that. It's not often that Daniel 7:9 is used as the main argument. I have seen it used as an argument on its own, but it is normally used in support of Revelation 1:14 and Revelation 1:15. So I don't want to give incorrect information and just say, right, okay, Daniel 7:9 is only used with with the verses in Revelation. It's normally used in that way. Sometimes it can be used on its own. So Daniel 7:9, and I'm not sure if I have Daniel 7:9. No. So let's find Daniel 7:9. And we'll read Daniel 7:9. And this is not so this isn't a reference to Jesus. This is actually a reference to the Ancient of Days. And so this verse is used as, like I say, as support for Revelation 1:14, 1:15. But it's support by the way of so they will say that Jesus is a black man, and so is his father, or the other way around is that God is a black man, and so is his son. So these are the normal way of arguing. Now, I'm not really sure that I need to argue regarding God being a man. So to me, whatever color this is describing, and we'll get into it in a minute, it's not describing God as a man, because God is not a man. God is a spirit. We literally have there are verses that are used that say God is not a man, but they're kind of, in the context, they're really referring to God is not man in the in his motivations, in his ways, rather than like his appearance. But God is not a man. That's just fact. He is a spirit. He's not a man. So he's not a black man, and he's certainly not a white man, and he's not any color man, because he's not a man. But we need to address this verse, because this verse is used as support. Now, I beheld till thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Now, obviously, this is metaphorical language, but we'll deal with it. We'll deal with the verse as it is. So here it says, and the hair of his head. All right, so like the pure wool. Okay, so it is pure wool. The hair is like wool. That's the connection here. So the connection is that God has curly hair like wool. So obviously we need to investigate this specific verse and see whether this verse actually supports the claim of what is being made. So what you need to notice is that the word here, what is actually being stated, is pure wool. Pure wool. That's the important part. Now, this part of Daniel is actually written in Aramaic. So there's parts of Daniel were written in Aramaic. This just happens to be one of the parts that is written in Aramaic. And the word translated as pure is the Aramaic word neke, and it means clean or pure. It's only used one time in the entire Bible, here in Daniel, and it is, as you can see there, and For my videos on these, I use Bible Hub purely because, as I've said, it allows other people to follow along, and it's really easy. It's free. You can just go onto Bible Hub and it's very easy to navigate. There's lots of different translations. I use the King James Version, so do the Hebrew Israelites, but I understand that other people don't use the King James Version, and obviously you can follow along and you can see, as I have tried to do, show in other versions of the Bible what is actually stated. So I try to be as open as I possibly can. So Bible Hub is a really good tool to be able to do that in a Bible study, to follow along with in this kind of study. So neke means clean or pure. So pure wool is one specific referent. It is the pureness of the wool that is being described, not the texture of it. It is something that is pure and woolly. It is not something that is pure and woolly. These are not two separate referents. Rather, they are one referent. And so when you have a look at neke, this is the Aramaic word. But if you see there's a Hebrew equivalent. The Hebrew equivalent, all right, is naki, and it means innocent, pure, clean, free from. All right, and there you go. You can see, and it comes from another that word actually comes from another Hebrew root word, nakah, which means clean or blameless or guiltless. And you can see that if you have a look, this word is translated blameless, innocent. So that's what is being referred to. When we saw back in the when it said and his hair and or his head and his hair, all right, there was a conjunction word. There was the connecting word. There is no connecting word here. So the one referent is pure wool. That's the referent. It's pure wool, clean, cleansing, innocent. That's what is reference, not pure and wool. Right? There is no and in here, so it's not referring to two separate things. It has a one referent thing. So it is a pureness of wool that is being referred to. Again, it's not the texture. It has nothing to do with texture at all, just the pureness of the whole thing. The whole description of Jesus in these in the descriptions that we've had in Revelation 1:14, Revelation 1:15, Daniel 10:6, and now this is the Ancient of Days in Daniel 7:9. None of it has to do with physical texture. All right, it's all color, brightness, innocence, pureness. That's what we're being referred. That's what is being referred to. So the use of these verses to show that Jesus was a black man work only if you take the representation of the verses by those making the claims about them, without any investigation into the verses at all, and what they are actually saying. And you have to ignore parts of the verses. You have to misinterpret some of the verses. You have to misrepresent some of them, the parts of the verses. So it's something that allows you to represent them in the way that you need them or you want them to say in order to support the claim that you're trying to make. And this is either through ignorance or dishonesty. Either way, the claim that the Bible describes Jesus as being a black man is incorrect. So basically, that is my argumentation against the verses that are used by the Hebrew Israelites to say that Jesus is black, and why I don't believe that they actually do say that, and what they are actually referring to. So again, that is part of my book, the Hebrew Israelites versus the Holy Bible versus the Hebrew Israelites. I am actually hoping one day that I will get a second part to that Bible, that book, or update this one day. It might happen, but this is an argumentation that I think shows that the Hebrew Israelite argumentation is completely incorrect, doesn't do what they say that it does, and it's again, it's only referring to what the Bible says about Jesus. I'm not arguing that Jesus was a white man. I'm not arguing that he was a black man or that he wasn't a black man. I'm not arguing any of that. It specifically, does the Bible say that Jesus was black? That's the argument, because that's the claim. The claim is that the Bible says that Jesus was black. Those are the verses that are used to show that Jesus was black, not the verses that are used to show that Adam was black, Abraham was black, Paul was black, Moses was black, the other Israelites were black. That's not what we're dealing with in this particular video. I will deal with those, and that's fine. Not in this video. This one was purely, does the Bible say that Jesus was black? I don't believe that it does. You may disagree, and that is fine. And you are obviously welcome to your opinion if that's what you believe. As always, if you would like to discuss with me where you think my arguments are wrong, why you think that the arguments that I'm arguing against, why those are correct and why my arguments are wrong, I'm more than happy to discuss that with anyone. I'm more than happy to have you come onto my channel and you can discuss it live with me, and you can show me where I err. And if that is the case, then I'm more than happy to have a look at it. Obviously, what you'll have to do as well is look at the argumentation that I've presented, and you will have to show me where I am wrong and why your arguments are correct. And if you would like to do that, feel free to come on at any time. You can let me know, and I'll arrange for a specific time for us to have a discussion. And if you agree with me, then you're obviously also welcome to come on and agree with me, or if you would like to add to this. Now, I know there have been quite a few comments made. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get through all of the arguments or all of the comments, but especially from Lion Farm, who has posted quite a lot of comments, and I'll probably try to go through and have a look at those. I'm not sure if Lion Farm has left or whether he's still here. But Eric said that he'd watched the video that I did on why the books of Gad and Nathan are not in the Bible. So I'm thankful that he's done that. He states that he's still looking into Gad, but I definitely know about the author Johnson and his viewpoints, so still looking into it. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting that not many people actually do know Johnson. So Ken Johnson, who has created that supposed text of the book of Nathan. One day we may get into that and see. But yeah, I did the video on that just yesterday. So that's available on my YouTube as well. The video on why they are not included in the Bible. So I'm in Bama, and we have a lot of BHI here, Black Hebrew Israelites, or Hebrew Israelites as I call them, as I think they prefer to be called. Some, I suppose, still would be classified as Black Hebrew Israelites, those that don't accept the others, so like Native Americans and Latinos as part of the Hebrew Israelites. They don't come out in the streets here, though. They know we will accidentally run there. Well, yeah, okay. I wish I hadn't actually brought that one up. I don't think that that's in fact, actually, I'm going to remove that and block that, because that's not the kind of I do apologize. That's not the kind of language or the kind of argumentation that I will accept on my channel from any side, regardless of who you're arguing against. I don't accept any racism on my channel either way. So sorry, but Mr. Green, you are gone and you won't be coming back. So anybody that did read that, and I didn't actually read it before I brought it up, but I do apologize. And yeah, that's not acceptable. So, but yeah, there are Hebrew Israelites in quite we have them in England. I haven't personally come across any directly, but I think they're more in kind of more central parts of England and also in London. So maybe one day I'll actually go off and try to have a conversation with some. I have attempted, and I still attempt, to get Hebrew Israelites to come to my channel, and I haven't been able to get any who are willing to come onto the channel yet, who are willing to come live and discuss with me their viewpoints. I hopefully will still that will still happen one day. Now I know Eric, it was kind of did have some kind of background in that, and also somebody else that I know that I frequent their channel, which is actually where Eric followed me from. They are kind of, they have a really good knowledge of the Hebrew Israelites. So even if I can't get a Hebrew Israelite to come on and actually discuss with me their position in a civil and honest manner where we have a proper discussion, even if I can't make that happen, then Eric has already said that he will come on, and hopefully I'll be able to get the other person as well to come on and give us a little bit more, just an open discussion and a little bit more awareness of from inside the kind of camps and real understanding from people that have been around it. So hopefully we'll get that done as soon as possible. But again, this is one video. I will be addressing the other arguments that are brought up by Hebrew Israelites, and There are many verses that are used, and we will go through them. There are lots that I have dealt with in the book, so I'll try and get through as many of those and more, because there are arguments that I haven't got in the book, that I have dealt with since I wrote the book, and we'll go through those. Like I say, there are plenty of those. So, as I've been going now for an hour and 40 minutes, I've obviously finished the presentation on that specific video, on that specific argumentation about Revelation 1:14, 1:15, Daniel 7:9. So I shall basically finish up there, unless let's just quickly go through some of Lion Farm's comments. Let's point out that it's symbolic, as bronze represents a holy covering. For example, few know that the golden altar of incense inside the temple and tabernacle was covered with a bronze lid after son died messing with it. The bronze pillars with silver tops outside the white cloth of righteousness on the first tabernacle are represented as it was written in Revelation. She is clothed with saints, her children. Let's have a quick look at some of these. Numbers 16:39, and Eleazar and the priest took the brazen censers, with which they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for covering of their altar. Numbers 16:40, which obviously he's gone on and reposted. So interesting live. Thanks for your thoughts on the subject. Well, thank you, Lion Farm, for your thoughts on the subject. Obviously, you've posted quite a few comments there. I actually will go through and have a look at those, all of those, because there are quite a few that you have posted. Nor is white, to be honest. Let's educate the world that truly pigmentation isn't a representation of a people group, yet the gift is in the blood. Yeah, of course. I certainly don't try to argue that any color is is anything to do with salvation. White, black, brown, it doesn't matter what color. I mean, I know that some Hebrew Israelites take not offense, but they will say, like, the terms that like white and black are terms that have been kind of used by white people, so, or people of my kind of color. I'm not white. I'm more of a pinky color. Not really too sure, but it's certainly not white. And black people are not black in most general terms. So those are modern terms that have been applied by people. But then you also have to look at that and say, well, okay, why is the Bible using the word black to represent a people if black wasn't a term then? This is a modern term that has been applied to men of, we say of color, but white people are of color. So that's not really a term that should be used. But a black person that is called a black man, that is a modern day terminology for that. Why is the Bible using that terminology if that is truly what is being? Because there are lots of verses where, as we'll get to, that Hebrew Israelites will say this says the word black. So we have to ask why the Bible is using a terminology that is not used for another 2,000-3,000 years after. But those are arguments that we'll get to, and we'll have a look at in future videos as we go through all the different arguments of the Hebrew Israelites. So, yeah, I'm going to finish the video here. So, how is British Israelism looked at in the UK? Are you referring to Hebrew Israelites, or just Jews, what we would call Jews, who are really in reality Israelites? Is it you referring specifically to Hebrew Israelites? If you're referring to as in like black Hebrew Israelites, or Hebrew Israelites as in the same as what they are in America, I don't really think that it's a big thing here, certainly not at the moment. I'm certainly aware that they are about, and I am. Oh, so it's basically a Caucasian version of black Hebrew Israelite. To be honest, I don't know British. So I take it that that's white people who say that they are the true Jews. So we do have black Hebrew Israelites, or the Hebrew Israelites as in they are in America. I don't really follow them too much. They're not as vocal. They are on the streets. They are certainly out there. I don't think they are anything as big as what they are in America. And I think if you asked most people, if you asked most white people that I speak to, they don't even know about the Hebrew Israelites. So I talk about, having written this book and doing arguments against the Hebrew Israelites and stuff. And a lot of people that I speak to in the kind of the groups that the groups that I kind of mix with, or people I mix with, not many of them actually know much about it. Even I would say the groups that I speak to online that are not, they don't really have any Hebrew Israelites in, like on the Facebook groups and stuff. They don't have many Hebrew Israelites there. And I don't think that many really, they either don't pay attention or they're not interested. So I do go into some of the Hebrew Israelite groups. That's actually where I found Unbiased, where I obviously went onto his channel. Yeah, I normally argue with Hebrew Israelites in those types of channels, normally online. I've been trying to get them to come online with me directly, face to face on video. It's not something that they're going to do. But yeah, I'll look into the British Israelism. Basically say that all European nations are true Israelites. Well, yeah, I will look into that, because that's a maybe that I don't know whether that comes before the Black Hebrew Israelites or after, whether it's kind of like a in response to the Hebrew Israelite movement. So it's basically like saying, well, if you can say that you're Israelites, so can we. Yeah, I'm not really too sure about that. Yeah, all the European nations are true Israelites. Well, we know that that's not true either. I don't know how they would even. I will look into that. I don't even know how you would defend that. Okay. See you later, Eric. Yeah, but I really, really don't know how anybody would be able to argue that all European nations are true Israelites. I'm not even sure how what verses they would use in order to be able to defend that as a doctrine. So it's something I like investigating all different claims by all different people to see whether they're true or not. That is, I can't even think of any verses that are going to allow that to be supported, but I'm sure if they are a group, they will have their verses. Most groups do have verses that they use in order to support their doctrine. So yeah, I'll look into that. British Israelism. I know of British Hebrew Israelites. Like I say, they're not really a massive thing here. They certainly not as known here as probably they are in America. Probably a lot smaller. From what I have heard, they do sound exactly the same, just normally in some London accent. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll look into that. It might be another little rabbit hole that I need to go down and investigate. But yeah, there's nothing in the Bible that's going to be able to support that. Surely, I'm sure they may have found something. Okay, so again, thank you very much for watching, and like I say, if you agree, let me know why you agree, what you agree with. Is there anything that you might like to add to what I've actually stated? If there's anything you would like to add, feel free to let me know. Is there something I've missed in those particular verses? Again, let me know. I'm more than happy to add them to my study on this. If you would like to look at this specifically in writing rather than just on a video, you can go to www.followingtruth.com and then just search for is Jesus black or Black Jesus or something like that. Then you'll be able to find this whole study in written form on my website. But you can obviously also contact me as well through my website, through email. You can let me know if you agree. If you disagree, send me an email, let me know. If you would, again, in the future, if you would like to come on and you'd like to discuss this with me, again, feel free to do so. Please, if you haven't already, please give this a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't. It will keep you up to date when I go when I do new videos. Like I've said many times through this video, I am planning on doing all of the verses, or as many as I possibly can of the verses that Hebrew Israelites use in order to prove that they are the true Jews. They are the true Israelites, the true children of Abraham. So we're going to go through all of those and as many as we possibly can. But coming up, obviously, to Christmas, there's going to be a more limited time to be able to do videos. There's the World Cup on as well. So unfortunately, we are probably going to be competing with that, although it is in the quarterfinal stage at the moment. So, well, some of us are in the quarterfinal at the moment, some not quite, but it's yeah. So I will try and do some more videos within the next over the next few weeks, as and when I get the time to do it, and also try not to compete with the football. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.